All right. So pretty much, after getting arrested, it really, really upset me. I remember going to my brother's house and really didn't like the fact of what was going on, of having my, not necessarily my brothers per se. It was just the fact that I'm over in the situation. I'm in his living space. He has a whole family. I just didn't feel comfortable. I wanted him to still do what he does, and I felt like he just needed his own space. So that's what I pretty much did at that point. I kind of just dispersed, did what I had to do. I went back to my mother's house. Went to my mother's house, and we waited for the court date. At that time, it was really difficult because I worked for the city. Again, I was a custodian. So I couldn't go back to work because it's a government job. If you have a case that's, that you can do time, and domestic violence is like 3 to 5, it was just like, I could have been there. You know what I'm saying? Like, literally. And that was really, really scary for something I didn't do. So, all right. I go to my mother's house. We go for the next court date, which was on my birthday. So I'm on my birthday. I'm chilling, whatever. And I was, highly upset behind it all, but it is what it is. They try to throw me back in prison. So they was just like saying, "Hey, he didn't do the anger management that we put in his paperwork. Why he didn't go?" And literally, they was gonna, put me in handcuffs. And my mother was like, "He never got that paper. If he would have got that paper, he would have showed up." She wasn't really supposed to speak up, but she did anyway. So at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying? Like, she sat there and said he never got that paper. So when they realized that paperwork was still in file, they was like, well, he has to go, and this, that, and the third. Now, at one time, they had it in Mount Vernon, right, for the anger management, right? So I went there. I remember the time I had to go. It had to be like, I think it was like 6 o'clock in like p.m. I think it was like 5 or 6, but it was like for evaluation. So I went to this lady. The lady started off nice. Lady started off real nice. She was cool. And she was just like, "Hi, Mr. Peterson, blah, 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 blah. I heard this, that, and the third." So she's running through my paperwork, right? So I'm like, okay, she's running through my paperwork. See what happens, right? And she started being like somewhat on my side, but I had no idea she was playing good cop, bad cop, right? She was playing good cop, bad cop. And eventually the good cop stopped being such of a good cop. So she was like, I guess she was trying to like see if I was really like an aggressive person, which makes sense. But at the time, it was just like, I didn't know where it was coming from. I was young. I didn't understand. Right. So she was like, "But you meant to put hands on her." I was like, "No, I never wanted to put hands on her. I never did. I pushed out of self-defense." And then she was like, "Yeah, but when you did it, you felt a significant amount of power." I said, "That's corny, first of all. Any man wanting to just do that intentionally is a coward. So, no, that wasn't the situation." And then she kept drilling it, like, over a pause. She kept drilling and drilling and drilling and drilling and drilling. And she wanted me to break. I just kept saying, "I don't understand why you keep doing that." Right? And then she was like, "Okay, well, we're going to go through another evaluation. So you came this day, we're going to go to another one another day, right?" All right, cool. If you ever been to an anger management place to where they got to evaluate you, for all the same people, no disrespect to anybody in there, but you be thinking like, man, especially you didn't do nothing, and you in there and you have to hear some of these people's stories, you be like, what am I doing in here? These people are going to jail for a long period of time. I'm not supposed to be in here. I'm not, but there's nothing I can do. I'm going through the process, right? So I'm in the courtroom. Oh, I'm in the anger management evaluate, like it's like a whole party of people talking, whatever, right? So I remember this girl, Puerto Rican. She was bad too. She was gorgeous, right? And she was like, "Oh, what you doing in here for?" I told her, I said it was over a fake domestic violence case. I'm not supposed to be here, right? She said, "Oh, she in here too," but at the end of the day, it wasn't her fault. So I'm thinking in the back of my head, the woman's in here because, like, evidently she must have did something that she shouldn't have did to the guy, and it probably got to a point where it was too much. Right, so we start having a conversation. Everybody's going around in a circle, whatever. So I hear her story. She goes, "Yeah, I didn't mean to try to, let me try to keep this as YouTube, It's kind of graphic. She broke the bottle. She broke the bottle, right? And what she decided to do was outline a certain area and was pretty much trying to take it off, right? And said if he didn't get her that aggressive, if he didn't put the situation and getting her to that point, it never would have happened. I said, wow, this girl's crazy, right? So I was just looking, I'm like, yo, you really did that? Wow, okay. So I spoke my story. I left it alone, right? And pretty much it was like no judging, whatever, because the same lady that I told you that was in the beginning trying to evaluate me, she just listening to everybody, right? And the number one thing they do when they do an evaluation for anger management, they want to see if your story's going to change. And my story didn't change because I knew the truth, right? I stood on the truth. So what they did with me and not with them, they came to me and said, you got to go to Connecticut. You know what I'm saying? To do your other evaluations. Yo, the evaluation was at 8 o'clock in the morning. I'm all the way in Brooklyn. Can't have a car, none of that. So literally, I had to get up at like 5 in the morning just to take the L train to 14th Street, Union Square, to take that to, I believe, the 3 or 4, the 42nd Grand Central. You know what I'm saying? Take the Metro North to Connecticut, and still had to take, I think, a bus over there. It was crazy. And it was more than one time. I had to do that for like 2 months. Every Saturday. It was insane. Shout out to my mom, because she really looked out for me for that. Thank you, Mom. You know what I'm saying? So, all right, boom. During that time, there's a second court case, right? Go to the second court case. Now, if I'm not mistaken, on trial, if you go through 3 trials and they can't prove your innocence, then I'm pretty much gonna get locked up for 3 to 5. So the first trial, it didn't really bother me because I'm like, all right, I still got 2 more, and I know what I did. And they still trying to get a situation of how I am. I said, okay, cool, I'm gonna let it rock. So the second trial happened. It was no bueno. They didn't really work with me, and this is when things started getting really dark. You know what I'm saying? From that point on. So I'm back in anger management, going back and forth. On top of that, there was I could have seen my kids, but it would have been with a mediator, and I didn't really want people involved in my bond that I had with my kids, just in general. You know what I'm saying? Like, I felt like I didn't have to prove that to them, and if it wasn't with a mediator, I couldn't see them. So, me being crazy too in the process of that, I can talk about it now because all the charges got dropped. But the whole thing was, my baby mother was like, can you come see me? And I wasn't supposed to see her either. And I was really upset. I was like, yo, like, you really got me locked up for no apparent reason. And now I'm dealing with this trial that I didn't do. And it's not even right. You know what I'm saying? And she was like, I'll make it up to you when you get back, blah, 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 blah. I just think that she was toxic. At the same time, I was stupid. I'm just going to be honest with you. Right? And anybody going through this, if you got a toxic relationship that you in, and it's not you, but it's taking you out of your element to where people starting to look at you like you the problem, your best bet is to get out of there. Stop trying to prove to people like you such a good person, this, that, and the third. It don't matter what you are, because the family's going to automatically be biased no matter how much. They know what their child is. They know how it is. But at the end of the day, you knew, and at the same time, you ain't blood related. So they'll look at you as a problem more than actually an asset. They see you as a liability. It is what it is, right? So with that being said, moving forward, it really stressed me out, really upset about a lot of things. And then from that point on, like, my mom was just like, you just got to deal with what you got to deal with. You know what I'm saying? And, she was just like, she was a ride or die. She was there supportively. She was there. And got to the point where, I went to anger management again. And this time they had me go back to Mount Vernon. So when I went back to Mount Vernon to do to reevaluate, like, literally the lady was like, oh, when it comes down to it, I need everybody to be honest with themselves. Because I guess everybody was getting ready for their court date. So, the girl again says she regrets everything that she did. She wish she could take it back. Boom, boom. I guess she realized that she was going to do time, right? And she couldn't take it back. But I'm scared out my mind because this is my third term. This is my third trial on the way. So I'm sitting there, I'm crying, I'm upset. I'm like, yo, I didn't mean to do anything. You know what I'm saying? But I got, I was put in a hard place, in a hard spot. Got hit 3 times in the face, and I literally like pushed out of self-defense. I didn't want to even do that. I was trying to leave out the situation. So I cried it out the whole 9 yards, right? So that's going on. I'm upset. I don't know what's going to happen. It's the third trial about to happen. My mom is like, yo, we got to go. I remember this clear as day because I literally started throwing up everywhere I was going. I was pale in the face. I was like, yo, I'm going to jail. Like, that's all I felt. I was going to get locked up no matter how I looked at it. I was going to jail, right? My mom had to pull over. I'm throwing up all over the place. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had to keep telling my mom to stop, whatever. She's like, we going to miss the trial if you don't show up. So that whole entire time I'm sitting there, I got my face down, you know what I mean? The trial's starting to happen. She doesn't show up to the court case, the baby mother, she don't show up. And all of a sudden, the same judge that I've been dealing with is back on the stand. So my public caseworker, my public attorney, whatever, is explaining the situation over and over again. That, my baby mother hasn't shown up to none of these court cases, hasn't said anything. Evidently, that has to show a sense of somebody is guilty and it's not him. He's being framed for something he didn't do, right? And pretty much from that point on, the judge looked at me, whatever the case may be, and I'm like, yo, I'm going. Then what makes it even worse, the lady who was doing the evaluation with me from anger management pulls up to the courthouse, and she's best friends with the judge. Yeah. So you can imagine having to see that you're in your third trial. You know what I'm saying? They already tried to lock you up. You went through evaluation through anger management. They try to falsely accuse you to try to get something out of you to see if there's an anger situation with you, right? But not only that, now the judge that's been with me the whole entire time that saw the whole situation happen is best friends with the lady who's doing the anger management. So can you imagine what it feels like at that point? It felt like all hope is lost. And pretty much I looked at my mother and was like, this is it. I'm going to do 3 to 5 for something I didn't do. Stay tuned if you want to see part 3 of the situation. I'll holler at y'all. Peace.